Details. Don't worry about
Make sure.
Mr.
Ford. Mr. Ford. Joe. Mike.
Ready.
I call to order this regular meeting of the Monument Board of Trustees, October 21st, 2019. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Ms. Hogan, would you take roll, please?
Mayor Wilson?
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Elliott?
Here.
Trustee Bornstein?
Here.
Trustee Clark?
Here.
Trustee Kootman, noted absent. Trustee Romanella?
Here.
Trustee Stevens?
Here.
Before us, we have an agenda and a consent agenda. Is there any modifications to the agenda?
Yes, I move to amend the agenda as part of the possible negotiated settlement of case number 2019 CV 30,812. I move to amend item 12 to permit the Board of Trustees to consider and vote upon any ordinance necessary to implement whatever decision the board makes as a result of the executive session listed in item 11, including any ordinance that may transfer interests in real property.
And that is going on item 12. Is there any additional modifications?
Are we gonna get a chance to discuss that?
Yes.
Okay.
Seeing no other, do I have a motion to approve the agenda as amended?
Motion to approve the agenda as amended.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Ms. Hogan?
Trustee Clark?
Yes.
Trustee Bornstein?
Yes.
Mayor Wilson?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Elliott?
Yes.
Trustee Stevens?
Yes.
Trustee Romanella?
Yes.
That motion passes 6-0. First item on the agenda, recognition. Mr. Tharnish.
Okay, I'd like to, with an employee recognition, with Nathan Ashu come here, or step up to the front. Nathan is being recognized tonight as a time-on employee. He's been an employee for approximately 6 months. Today, he's been recognized Employee of the Month based upon his initiative for gathering data. Nathan has taken the lead for compiling information needed to help develop a new distribution map for the entire town of Monument water system. He is the primary collector of data in this field. This includes mapping water valves, hydrants, and water mains. He uses this information that he has gathered to work with the town's GIS expert in order to generate these new maps of the system. Nathan has gone above and beyond the duties and expectations of a water operator. He also serves on the engagement committee here in the town and has endeavored to expand and further his water certifications since being employed with the town. For his contributions to the town and the water department, Nathan is hereby recognized as Town of Monterey Employee of the Month for August 2019.
One of the things that I'd like to recognize you for, and I know you mentioned something, so Drew and him are working on our GIS systems, but we're also working with TriView. Jim over there is working with us on this, and what the ultimate goal is to create maps that you as citizens can go online and look at, and you'll know where water lines are, valves, everything like that. Anything that you want to know, you'll be able to look online and have layers of maps that you can pull up things, where we're gonna do the next pothole repairs, all that stuff we're gonna do on that. So Nathan's kind of working with Drew Anderson on that and leading our city to get into the next step. So we really appreciate that. Thank you, sir.
Ms. Jones.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the board. 2-for-1 Employee of the Month tonight. It's my honor to recognize Ms. Teresa Russ from the Planning Department.
Your husband's here.
Yes, he is. There is not much that Miss Teresa does not do for our department. Not only does she help us with lots of admin type things, which we have a lot of in our department, and we're a small department, so her help is greatly appreciated. She's also helping, or she's actually handling the majority of all of our planning permits, which takes a lot of time and a lot of effort. She has led the cooperative effort that the town has been going through with Pikes Peak Regional Building Department, trying to streamline our permitting processes. As you know, we have sort of a complicated situation, right, with Triview and the town and Woodmore and things like that. So those are not easy processes, and she has been leading that effort, and so we greatly appreciate that. Again, the purpose of that is to improve those processes for not only builders and developers, but our citizens who get permits as well. I could go on and on. She has helped tremendously with our website, with helping improve our processes, tracking those. So we have improved our department greatly since her presence, and so we are happy to recognize her as Employee of the Month for September.
One thing I'd like to recognize her for too is, not only does she serve on some of our committees, but she's really helped our customer service. When I got here, I promised that we'd have better customer service. Well, Teresa exemplifies that. She has led that effort along with a lot of our other employees, so we really appreciate the fact that every day you strive to give better customer service to our citizens. So thank you very much.
Next item on the agenda, presentations, I-25 gap update. Mr. Neiman.
Good evening. Let me make sure this is working here. I said there's a link. Yeah. So I'm Paul Neiman. I'm the CDOT project director for the I-25 South Gap project. Trying to give you an update here of many, many things that are in progress on this kind of massive project we're doing here. So let's start by framing the project here a little bit with some of the construction elements and the project benefits. So mainly, let's go through the construction elements that we're dealing with 18 miles that we're trying to improve on this highway. We've got bridges. It's a little hard for me to read because usually I go through here and look this way a little bit. So we've got 9 bridges now we're actually replacing on this project. We've got express lanes that we're adding into it, which is basically just tons of pavement where the width we're increasing for the shoulders for safety. We've got drainage pipes. We've got we're fixing the underpass basically at Greenland there. We're going to expand that to a real bridge is what's going to happen there instead of the CBC or the CBC that's there existing now. So we've got the truck climbing lanes we're going to add now. We just picked that part of it up, so we're going to actually extend that all the way through from Greenland to the port side. So that was kind of that just came about with some additional funding that we just found. We've got wildlife crossings that we're doing there's several wildlife hits in this area. And we had originally, CPW wanted 10 crossings. We got 4 plus an improvement at Plum Creek. So we've got those bridges. Those are part of the 9 bridges that we're building because those basically are bridges in themselves. They're 100-foot wide bridges as the deer would look at them. 100-foot wide spans, so they're pretty good structures. They're not just a small underpass for the animals. And then we've got just part of the backbone, the fiber that we're installing, which is going to run some of the ITS elements and the express tolling equipment that we have out there and stuff, plus some of our additional cameras that we're putting out there so we can improve kind of operations as we need to on I-25 there. So part of this is showing some of the benefits here, right? The express lanes, I know we've had a lot of flack about the express lanes, but really that gives you a driver's choice. You can either use it or you still have the 2 GP lanes that have always existed that you'll still be able to use at any time. But the increase in the shoulders is really what the project's about, right? The emergency response, the first responders trying to get to accidents have not had access in this area because of the narrow shoulders. And so this project's really adding these giant shoulders, 15, 12-foot shoulders on each side of the roadway, both directions. So now there'll be lots of room for the first responders to get to people. Plus, when there is an incident, people will have a way to access around those problem areas, right? Because now we have all that pavement there. So we've got the wildlife, the project benefits here, some other wildlife protection. Hopefully we're installing deer fence pretty much all about 24 miles of deer fencing from the southern end all the way towards Castle Rock there. So that'll help with wildlife animal collisions there. So we've got that going. The truck access, like I said, we're doing the climbing lane now. We've got just some of the other technology, and then the bus travel. Well, the bus will be able to use the express lane, so we can increase hopefully some ridership in that and more reliable trips for people if they want to use the express lanes, or at least the buses will be reliable on time. So those are kind of the main points of it here. So this is what we're building here, basically from what we've looked at to get all those benefits and what the corridor needs. This is the bottom part of this is what we're building. So if you look, you can see the big shoulders on the inside, outside. You've still got your two 12-foot general purpose lanes, and then you have a buffer with the express lane into the median area there. And then you've got the median barrier, which will separate both directions there. And you can see compared to the old, which is up top there, you see how much better an access we'll have in there. So there's going to be quite a bit of pavement. It's going to look quite a bit different here in another few years. So we broke this project up into 3 packages in 3 areas. Basically, we're calling it packages the way we delivered it through our construction contracting method. So we've got the north, the middle, and the south, which is basically our package 1 to the north. Our package 2 is the southern area, and package 3 ended up being in the middle there. So those all have somewhat different scheduled completions, but all of the completion dates are set for 2022. So now, you may have heard we've moved that date a little bit. So what's really going on is the package 1 area will be done we have a milestone to complete that package area in 2021, November of 2021. So about a year from now, we will be done with that full width widening, paving and everything in the package 1 area, which is north of Skyview. The package 2 area, which is the southern section there, which is here from Monument all the way to Greenland, basically, that will be done in the first one was 2020, second package here is 2021. So next year, we'll have the first package done 2021, November of 2021, the second package will have its full width. It'll be open as all the lanes will be ready for use, and then the package 3 area is what will probably be done in February of 2022. Most likely will be done December of 2021 with that. And for most people, when they look at it, they're going to see the full width of pavement. All of that pavement will be available pretty much at the end of 2021. So the only thing we really need to come back for in 2022 is an overlay, because we have to do overlay with the seasons. There's some issues with the exact final pavement lift that we need, so that's going to go into 2022, but that'll be a night operation. So really, coming into 2021, early 2022, you're going to see all this shoulder, you're going to see all the lanes striped out, you're going to have all that access for incidents and everything going on by the end of 2021. Really, there's going to be some huge benefits there. So go to the next one. So here's a couple of milestones we've done. We've completed 11 miles of pavement. We've got the bridges starting to demo out. We're kind of working about 5 bridges right now. We have in partial demolition. We've got part of that Greenland box culvert out. We're working on that, building new, so you guys can see how tall that new bridge structure is going to be. If you drive along there, it's going to be quite a bit higher, because to get the deer crossing and the new Greenland road under it, it's got to go up in the air. So that's underway pretty good. We're about to switch some phasing on that, so that's coming right along. And then we got the wildlife. We got 3 wildlife crossings under construction now. All those are down here in the southern section. Those are all underway. The 4th one is right in where the old rest stops are at. That's the 4th wildlife crossing. The 5th one we're sort of taking credit for is the Plum Creek, actual Plum Creek, where the creek goes under the interstate. We're changing that bridge out, taking out the pier, and that's going to kind of qualify for an improved wildlife crossing. But that's kind of the 5th one we got into the project. So besides all the drainage, this is all milestones from year 1. We've got a lot of drainage in. We're way ahead on drainage, even though with the weather and stuff, we've been able to stay ahead with the utilities. Obviously, we've got to get the utilities in first before we can build the road on top. So a lot of good stuff in the first year we've actually got done, despite some of the weather and a couple of the issues with the cyclone, the bomb cyclone blizzard that was on for a few days there. But we've been able to make some pretty good strides here. Upcoming work here, we've got And this list doesn't even do it justice, really. We just have so much. You guys drive through there, you see all the work we're doing. We've just got switches, traffic switches going left to right, inside, outside, within the whole 18 miles. We've got bridges underway at all times. We're gonna have pretty much all 8 bridges going. We have 9 bridges, so the 9th bridge is the county line bridge here, Palmer Divide County Line Bridge. So that one we're still designing, actually. So like I said, the way we contract this out in packages, let us start early, but we still are designing that county line bridge. That is just a late, we just acquired funds for that. It's under our BE program. We just got the funding for that. So that looks like that's gonna be a 4-lane structure, basically 2 lanes in each direction with 2 center lanes for the left turn movements. That looks like what that's coming to be now. We're still gonna design that. So we've got January through next year, January through fall to design that. That bridge probably won't be built until 2021 right now, the way it's going, because like I said, we're building 8 bridges ahead of that, and we're flip-flopping the crews as they go along. It's a resource problem. We work on one bridge and the next crew moves on and moves on and moves on, and just keeps going along. So that is continuing besides drainage, and then we push the road out so we can do the drainage in the middle. We bring the road together so we can continue the drainage on the outside, and then we'll pave all the outside. So you can see there's just so much work going on. There's so many of those things. It's basically the same thing over and over. Bridge, pavement, drainage, on and on and on. So that's about most of that's probably the end of the updates there. I mean, there's just a lot more there that I don't have time to cover here. I just want to talk real quickly about this project management, the management plan, which is traffic control. So, every CDOT project we do is required to have a transportation management plan. It consists of kind of 3 elements: our PR efforts, it consists of a traffic control plan and operations plan. So just wanted to show that this picture here is our operations center in our field office that you don't usually have on any project. So we built this to try and help out with incident management that we see when we're there. We've got quite a bit of money. You can see that price tag down, or about $34 million projected to spend in just traffic control managing. And that's part of the Curse Patrol, the Smart Work Zone system, which is the signs that change, give you time indications, things like that. We've got added law enforcement that we're paying for. We have just the PR alone. We're doing this My Way busting program, which we're trying to get people to ride share and ride busting. We're doing that. We're spending money to advertise that and get people actually involved in that. We've done some frontage road improvements, so we're doing quite a bit to manage the traffic because, as everybody knows, there's a lot of delays in this corridor here. So that's just part of it there. And I just put here's the laundry list of things that we're doing out there to try and help during construction. And I'm not going to read all this list, but there's just a lot of things here with the public relations just coming here, trying to inform people of what's going on. Just using our lane closure strategies. We have these bi-weekly emergency meetings. We meet every 2 weeks with all the first responders in the area and council, the fire department, everybody trying to strategize on what we can do so they are intimate with the project as what we're doing, where openings are at, where they can access things at, and then we tell them what we can do for them. So, and that's been we have CSP in there, Douglas County's in there. So that's a pretty good meeting that we have every 2 weeks, and we go through after action reviews when we do have big incidents, things like that, trying to lessons learned. So a lot going on with that. That's pretty unique for a project to have that much involvement. So besides the operations center, we've got traffic monitors, smart work zone stuff, law enforcement, speed limit. We've added those PSLs you guys have seen that change the speed limits, so we can control those from our office there to change the speed limit down during certain incidents, stuff like that. And it seems to be somewhat effective. Sometimes you can kind of argue it, people will still speed through there, but we've probably got compliance down to maybe 70 at most times, but which is better than if we left it at 65 or 75. We might get compliance to 80. So we think we're getting some benefits out of that. It's really hard to tell because it's a lot of data crunching to figure that out. So winter, we're getting ready for winter operations now that we have the entire 18 miles basically lined with barrier. Winter operations is going to be critical here. We kind of had a little dose a couple weeks ago. We had some issues there that we're actually tomorrow and Thursday we're having after action reviews on that to try and figure out how we're going to speed that up. But we are looking at that. We're staging equipment. We've got a lot of resources on the project personnel that we're trying to assist CDOT and CDOT's normal winter operations between the two regions and how they plow the road and what's going on there. So there's a lot going on there that we're trying to think ahead of, but of course, like any accident, any incident that goes on, it's always reactive. We gotta wait for the incident and then we go at it and see what we can do, but we do have a lot of planning ahead in the works, trying to deal with the winter that's coming. I know it's critical to keep people flowing through I-25. So that's really the end of my presentation there. If there's any questions or anything like that, I'll take them now.
Question from the board?
I just had some really simple questions. When this project is completed, you're forecasted, what is that dollar amount? Because there's so many numbers that have been thrown out.
So originally, the project was scoped at $350 million. Now, $350 million gets us about $300 million in construction dollars of what we're building. We've added the bridge, that's gonna be another $10 million. We've added the climbing lane, that's another 8 or so million, somewhere in there. So let's say it's still roughly around this $300 million in construction dollars, in construction out there that we're doing for the next 3 years. And we're hoping to hold right around that $300 million.
So now have you all done forecasts as far as what you anticipate as far as revenue coming in based on that express lane?
So-
What you're projecting?
Yeah, so HPTE, they are kind of a separate entity from CDOT. Those guys are the guys who put together High Performance Transportation Enterprise. They go through all this modeling to determine and set rates and toll rates and all this stuff. And so their biggest thing, really the clearest thing is they don't set that at all for revenue. This is a different type of express lane than C470, than the Mountain Express lanes. This project's not bonded anyway, so we don't have anything to pay back. There's no hurry to get money. The money that's collected is for the corridor. So they're not basing it on any type of revenue stream of trying to make money back. It's based on how to get the most throughput, how to get truck cars to use it and get them through best in that corridor and stuff. So the pricing right now, I've heard a couple of preliminary things, is about $2 for the whole thing to use. That's real preliminary. So when it gets about 6 months before it opens, they'll redo a survey to determine what the value is that people will pay to use that to get from one place to another to get a reliable trip. So you still have the 2 lanes, but you can have a choice to get into that. And the revenue, I don't know that, like I said, I don't know that they particularly, they probably know somewhere, but they're not predicting it that way. That's not how we look at it as engineers. We're not looking like, how much money can we make out of this? We're not trying to make money, we're just trying to get enough people into it, but keep them out of the GPs, but give people reliable trips so they can get where they want in that lane. We want to make sure that lane is not overpriced or underpriced because we want it to be free flowing at all times. So I don't know if I have an answer.
No, you answered that. And then my last question is, are you looking next generation? Because obviously the amount of lanes going from Castle Rock going north to 470 compared to this, very different. So are you building under that capability that we can go to phase 2 and put more lanes in?
So every structure we're rebuilding right now will be capable of adding another lane, a 4th lane. Everybody's been asking about this 4th lane. So every structure built right now will be able to handle that. And we're not eliminating that possibility anywhere to add a 4th lane. So yes, we're building towards that. That's kind of the master plan. We know in 2040 is what the traffic predictions kind of show where these 2 lanes and the express lanes start to fail and we start to get back down to slower times, and that's where we possibly, that's traffic modeling, so it's inexact science, but it's the best thing we've got to predict where we're gonna get, but that's what everything's been based on. So we know eventually we'll need that. Right now, we don't need that, so that's why we're not building it now, but we will have room for it in the future, so.
Great, thank you very much, great answers.
Trustee Clark?
Can you let me know what they're planning for that CDOT management platform command center? Will that still continue after the project is done?
No. So what we're doing, the project operations center, that's just in our, it's kind of, we're just trying. We haven't done this on a project before, and we're having a tough time staffing it. We got to keep people in there. It's not like Golden. Golden is there all the time. That's our main operations center. So what we're doing is just kind of micro into our project, and but that's going to go away at the end of the project. Now, CDOT is reworking different operations centers right now. They're trying to figure out where they need some because they have one in Pueblo, they have Colorado Springs, they have Golden, and so I'm not sure what their whole plan is, like where they're going to pick up the I-25 corridor, because Golden takes it now is, I believe, how they run that. We're just kind of in our 18 miles, trying to deal with our 18 miles with the resources we have. I have a contractor who has some big toys out there if we need to move some barrier or get a car out of the way to keep traffic flowing. So that's where we're at with the project. That's our level of assistance right now. But when we go away, that goes away too. Then we're back to CDOT maintenance and what they can do, the capability. So
And when this project is complete, will there be camera technology all along that stretch?
there is pretty good camera coverage right now. We're adding, I only believe, one or two more cameras for some blind spots, but there is pretty good camera technology now because we're using an operations center. We're tied into all those cameras. We can control them. We can see what accidents are going on. We have guys actively looking for problems and breakdowns to help them move those incidents out of the way. So right now, there's pretty good coverage. You can see them on co-trips. If you go to co-trips there, you can see all the cameras and you can see the VMS, the message board, so you can kind of see what the messages say. But so there should only be two more cameras right now because there's pretty good coverage already. So.
And on the 12 miles of technology, fiber that you're laying, will that accommodate 5G broadband in the future?
Well, that's a tough question because typically I don't think we don't let outside sources use our fiber, but there's enough conduit space that people can run in there and run. We're not trying to do it because we're not charging. We're can't let somebody go in there for profit, right? Anybody with 5G is going to be in there for profit. So there's some stipulations around it. So we should have. I mean, we put in extra conduit, so there'll be enough for whatever's coming up. And we're upgrading our backbone. So most of like Monument, Colorado Springs runs on like 2 fibers, and we're putting in like probably 256 fibers. So the technology, who knows what that's. Part of that's for talking vehicles. Some of that stuff we're supposed to implement in the corridor for future that. I'm not sure where that's at, but possibly coming. So.
And the last question I have is the deer crossings.
Mm-hmm.
So it looks like you're putting up some really high barricades for the deer. Is that right?
Yeah, that's our typical deer fence. I think that fence is 8 foot high, and it's kind of approved fencing that CPW likes to use. So deer can jump that fence if they're spooked, but
it ended, and it came back into the 2 lanes. So at least there was a little bit of a climbing lane, not much. So what's changed now is we actually got freight funding. Freight funding's let us build that all the way up and all the way to the port. So now, right after the Palmer Divide Bridge now, you catch that decel lane that takes you into the port. Basically, we're gonna connect to that all the way through, and that's gonna happen because we're taking out the bridge now. The bridge needs to be wider underneath of that also. So that's all that's changed here, so.
So that's a great positive. That
It's a
was
good
just
thing, yeah,
for
oh yeah, it's good.
trucks
So,
passing each other.
and so we're looking at evaluating schedule, but it's really, it's already concurrent work, it's sort of the same work, so it's already, and we're really not seeing schedule impacts to that 2022 date. Milestone dates, we may not have a certain, part of it open, like we said, right, because we have to phase that to get that paving down, but really for the overall 2022 schedule, it won't affect that at all. We'll have that, we'll be able to get that concurrent. The bridge is concurrent with the other work and stuff too, so we're not anticipating, of course, this opens it up to the contractor to come at us for schedule impacts possibly, but right now, we've been talking, and there's not looking like any schedule impacts per se, so it's a good positive thing for the project, yep. Yep,
There's no other questions? Thank you, Mr. Needham.
sure, no problem, thank you guys.
Moving on to ordinance number 30-2019, an emergency ordinance prohibiting the sale of kratom for substances containing kratom to minors and adoption of a new chapter to the Monument Municipal Code. Mr. Owens.
Good evening.
You're not Mr. Owens.
That's quite all right, Mr. Mayor. Good evening. I'm Sergeant Hudson, acting commander with the Monument Police Department. I'm here on behalf of Acting Chief Owens, who's on vacation. I'm here today to present his ordinance that he wrote up, and some new and interesting information has come to light since I received this. Initially, Chief Owens wanted to place a ban on the sale of kratom to minors, which would be 17 and under. This actually started in May of 2019. Retired Chief Shirk asked for an emergency moratorium on the sale of kratom in the town of Monument so that he could do some research. A month later, he retired, and this was handed off to Acting Chief Owens. This was handed to me less than 6 days ago when the chief said he was going to be on vacation, so please forgive me. But what we're looking at here is a ban on the sale for minors. I was set to present this as of all the way up until late Thursday night. Late Thursday night, I'm at home monitoring social media, and I see that the town of Parker has enacted a ban on the sale, all sales of kratom and kratom products within their town. This occurred at their Board of Trustees meeting on October 17th, and it didn't hit social media until the 17th, Thursday. At that point, I came in to Commander Owens, Chief Owens, and I told him that the town of Parker has just banned the sale altogether, not just to minors, but to everyone. And this is on the heels of the city and county of Denver. They don't ban the sale of kratom or kratom products, but they regulate the labeling and the size words on these products that say they are not intended for human consumption. The FDA has not okayed kratom at all to be used for any type of medical purpose. And as a matter of fact, the DEA, the Drug Enforcement Agency, has placed kratom on, and I apologize, listed kratom as a drug and chemical of concern. When kratom first started popping up, 2014, 2015, DEA said that they were going to schedule this drug. That never occurred. The FDA didn't do the testing that the DEA was looking for, so as of right now, it is a legal substance. It can be purchased over the internet. What I'm looking for today is that I recommend that the mayor, with the vote of the board, approve ordinance 3029, which basically says it's an emergency ordinance extending a temporary moratorium on the submission, acceptance, and issuance of a business license to businesses selling kratom pending a survey for development and adoption of potential regulations. And this moratorium would extend for another 60 days until we can do some research. The town of Parker, when they enacted their ban on the sale of kratom, it was based off of a Tri-County Health Department report. Tri-County covers the counties of Adams, Arapahoe, and Douglas counties. And the chief doctor in charge of the Tri-County Health Department basically said that their stance on kratom use aligns with the U.S. Food and Drug Administration, the FDA, as a precautionary measure. Tri-County Health Department strongly recommends that the town of Parker proactively ban any sale of kratom in its jurisdiction. I'm not proposing that today because Chief Owens has not done his homework on this due to how quick this hit the social media less than 4 days ago. What I'm looking for is an approval of Ordinance 30/2019 that basically says that you're giving it an additional 60-day moratorium so that we can do some more research.
Okay.
So the I'm sorry. So the moratorium says that,
Can you pass
You-
that paper around?
you
so
have
we can read it?
you have minors listed, is it just a moratorium on the sales in general, for everybody, for 60 days?
So,
As,
Ms.
as,
Hogan, one moment.
yes, sir.
Ms. Hogan, do we have an additional ordinance?
This document was just created a
Okay.
few minutes
Thank you.
before the board
Oh,
meeting.
thank you.
But it's essentially the same moratorium that you guys passed with ordinance 18/2019, and it simply extends that for another 60 days.
Okay.
Commander Owens, I apologize, Commander Hudson, I apologize. Based on the information you've gathered, your personal opinion, does it make sense as you move forward to just ban this across the board and not limit it to age? We shouldn't be having the sale of this in the town.
Yeah, I wanted to ask that question also, yeah.
In my opinion, from what I've read
Yes, sir.
over the past 4 days, is yes.
Okay.
However, I don't know if that is Chief Owens' stance.
Well, okay.
But the
The
FDA
board can vote.
said
I'd
it
like
was
to make-
okay.
Correct.
I'd like to make an amendment to this ordinance that we make it a ban for all, in the town of Monument.
Well, maybe we
But
should just extend
the
this
concern-
moratorium till we can discuss.
I think that would be the better option because we already have locations that sell it, correct? Or claim some form of it
Right.
that are already established businesses and already,
It's an addition to their existing business. They don't have a business that just sells
Right.
kratom.
right,
They have a
but we do have
business
places
that,
that sell it.
right.
How many places sell it in town?
I only know of one. I know Murphy's Oil
Okay.
sells it.
So, I guess my question.
But I think
to our-
there's several that are either selling it or
Several
looking
gas
at selling.
stations or-
Yeah.
The question to our attorney is again, if we determine, and again, I agree with my colleague, we don't have to wait for the acting chief, we can make a decision, but how does this impact any business that might be selling it if we say there's no longer sales of it in the town of Monument?
So this came to light because there was a business application from a business, the name escapes me, and that business was seeking to open a storefront in Monument, and they listed among the items that they sought to sell as kratom. And that based on that information, when business license applications come through the town's paperwork processes, that goes to the chief. And Chief Shirk saw that and read up and was familiar with kratom, and so he wanted to establish, he proposed establishing some regulations for kratom, because the town didn't presently have any regulations at that time, and that was in, I believe, I want to say May, June of this year. He came to the board and asked for some time to establish some regulations. He has since moved on, and this particular project has kind of moved through the progression of folks in terms of responsibility. And so that's important to understand. And so it's for a business that was seeking to sell that particular product. What is being presented to you now are essentially, as I understand it, 3 options. The first option is to basically approve a moratorium or approve the regulation of kratom and basically ban its sale to minors. The second option would be to obtain more time to do additional research to support a ban for everybody. Or a third option, and I think I was kind of thinking through it, and I think it would be acceptable, is to rely upon, take a moment and go through the Tri-County's report and use that as a basis to ban it entirely this evening. I think you could do that as well.
Okay, so that answers my question and the premise that you brought up, that the board could take that direction.
Exactly, from what's brought to my attention, I mean, this has been banned in Alabama, Arkansas, Tennessee, Vermont, Wisconsin, Illinois.
But the FDA has approved it.
No, they have not.
They have not approved it.
I think he just said that they did.
No.
They have not.
No,
been
no
approved at
testing's
all
been
for any
done.
type of medical use.
Excuse me, I'm sorry. I couldn't hear everybody at the same time. What did you say about the FDA?
The FDA is warning consumers not to use kratom. The FDA is concerned that kratom, which affects the same as opioid brain receptors as morphine, appears to have properties that expose users to risk of addiction, abuse, and dependence. And what they're basically saying, the FDA, is they have not approved kratom for any medical use.
And is there a way I can get that piece of paper?
Be more than happy to get this.
Thank you.
You bet.
I don't
I'd like to have all the
necessarily,
information
You bet.
before I make a decision on anything.
I don't necessarily think that there's more research to be done. The Denver Environmental Health Bulletin that came out was a big eye-opener to me.
Yeah.
And the FDA's statement.
I
I just think that this
I think-
ordinance, the way it's written, isn't comprehensive enough, and we need the attorney to establish a concrete legal ordinance that can't be challenged.
I'm just
Yeah, I
taking the
agree.
baseline of the information you showed on Parker. We have information as the Mayor Pro Temp has shared. I don't think this is something that the board needs to carry on another 60 days or 90 days.
I agree.
I think, does this go to public, or
I
can
think-
we make a motion, or?
It depends on what we decide to do.
Well, I
I'd like to make a
We
motion
did
to
decide.
amend the ordinance to ban kratom altogether in Monument.
I second that.
If I could encourage you to, as part of that motion, to expressly adopt the findings of Denver, the Tri-County Health Department, and read that into the record as a basis, because
I really think we need the attorney to write up an ordinance for us that is applicable. After we've had the chance to take a look at this information that we were just passed. I mean, I haven't even read it.
There's been a motion and a second.
I adopted a friendly amendment, if you could
Okay,
incorporate
how
that.
would you like me to word that?
Basically to if you are so inclined to ban kratom this evening, to expressly adopt the findings presented by staff, as well as the Tri-County Health, if you could read that into the record, the title of the document, as well as and the document regarding Denver, so that we have as a basis
It's a baseline
why we made this decision,
Yes.
exactly.
The Tri-County Health Department's report on September 3rd of 2019 to the mayor and council members of the town of Parker, excuse me. It's in regards to the proposed ordinance for the town of Parker to ban kratom sales altogether.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think of a way to, basically,
Yeah,
in
we
order
need
to
to do this
ban
right.
these types of items, you need to have a basis, a scientific basis essentially, and I'm trying to figure out a way to incorporate these materials into the record as a basis for your decision. So if we could
And so
work through that.
couldn't we let the attorney grant us the time to write an ordinance that we can vote on the next meeting?
I think in fairness, we have a motion. I mean, if
We have-
there's a disagreement, then it won't pass.
We have a motion. Do you have,
Basically, to adopt, to adopt the ban of kratom based on the town staff report, in addition to specifically those
Other town findings?
other town findings, specifically the Denver Public Department of Health findings, as well as the Tri-County Metro Health Department findings, I think should be sufficient.
And note that the FDA has considered this drug to be, well, how did you phrase it? Of
Great concern.
Great
Great
concern.
concern.
So the motion.
so we have a motion with the second,
We
repeat your
have to
second.
amend, we have to amend the motion. We
Why
have to
ya-
amend that motion.
The seconds.
So
To amend it to include the findings of Denver, the Tri-County area, and the fact that the FDA says this is a dangerous substance. Did I get that right, or am I off?
Yeah, it's the town staff report,
And town staff
Department of
report.
Public Safety, FDA, ban on the kratom.
And this is a ban on
Kratom.
Kratom sales.
Totally.
100% sale
Yes,
in the town of Monument.
Mayor
And
Wilson?
what happens to Murphy Oil, who's currently selling it?
They stopped selling it.
They do?
Could I clarify a couple of things for this motion? First, are you proposing it as an emergency ordinance or just an ordinance? And second,
A modification to ordinance number 30-20119, the newer 30, this needs to be done differently, but apparently we're in a hurry
does.
to do it tonight.
I don't see what the hurry is.
So it's not 30-2019, the minors and adoption of a new chapter. It is 30-2019, not the emergency ordinance extending the temporary moratorium, but what was it, to make the first one a ban on it?
Yeah, I think we need the attorney to do
This is very
this.
ridiculous.
Okay.
We need to have
You
a
wanna
town
rewrite it?
attorney draft a new ordinance.
We do.
We do have a
Agree with
motion
the
on the
mayor.
floor. Ms. Hogan, will you take roll on the motion of adopting the original ordinance, changing it with the change from minors to all?
I will, however, do you want it presented as an emergency ordinance, meaning it becomes effective immediately and doesn't have a publication requirement?
That one is as an emergency ordinance.
And also, it is a public hearing item.
Okay. This being a public hearing item, do we have anyone from the public that would like to speak for or against this item? Seeing none, we'll bring it back to the board. We have a motion and we have a second. Are we clear on what that motion and second is?
No.
I'm clear as to what the motion and second is, however,
Somebody write it down for me.
I've lost a little who made the motion and who seconded it, but I can listen
Okay,
to
I
the
made
tape.
the original motion. And basically, now I have the original ordinance 30-219, section 8.34.010 says, it shall be unlawful for any person to sell Kratom to a minor. And my amendment is, it shall be unlawful for a person to sell Kratom in the town of Monument. And
To
then,
sell?
And then
To sell.
the addition to that
The
would be,
second was,
would be based on town
was-
staff report, would be based on.
okay, excuse me, Trustee Bornstein.
Yes.
The second was to include those items, so you
Okay.
seconded with the
The findings of the town
referencing the
staff
findings.
of Denver, was it Tri-County or Tri-City, I'm sorry?
Tri-County.
Tri-County,
Yeah.
and the FDA,
FDA.
correct.
and just to make the motion, I mean, the ordinance easier to read, every place where the word minor is used can be stricken. So like in the title, it says, an emergency ordinance prohibiting the sale of kratom or substance containing kratom to minors, just say, prohibiting the sale of kratom or substance containing kratom and adopting a new, chapter 8.34. So we're just for making it easier to read, I want the staff to be comfortable in removing the word minor.
That's beautiful.
Okay.
That makes way more sense.
We have a
Okay.
motion and a second.
Pardon me, who seconded? Trustee
No.
Stevens? Okay.
Trustee Romanella was the
All right.
second?
We got it.
Okay.
You ready for your roll call?
Yes.
Okay.
Are you gonna
Trustee
repeat
Bornstein?
that?
Yes.
Trustee Stevens?
Yes.
Trustee Clark?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Elliott?
Yes.
Mayor Wilson?
No.
Trustee Romanella?
Yes.
As an emergency ordinance, you require 3/4 affirmative vote of the entire seated board,
That's correct.
which means 6, so that does fail.
That motion fails. Would we like to make a motion to draft a new ordinance?
Yes.
Would like to,
I would like to make a motion to draft a new ordinance created by the attorney to completely cover the legal aspect of this, to incorporate what Trustee Stevens has implemented and presented to us at the next meeting.
I second.
just a question, Mr.
Okay.
Mayor. Can we make an addendum to add to that, that under that time frame by which that new ordinance is generated, that the emergency order goes into effect, that there would be no sale of this product within the town of Monument?
I don't
So
think
it
you
would
can do
be a continuation of the moratorium until.
While they're creating a new
Yes.
document.
that. Okay, just encouraging the moratorium to be extended. Are we at the end of that time frame?
Well, yes,
Yes.
the 15th of next month.
Yeah.
And we don't have a meeting the 4th. So if you will make your motion to approve the extension of the moratorium and to draft the,
So I'd
But-
like to,
But just one note, we have this here on this emergency to minors, and this addendum would be in place, but that would be to all, not just minors.
right,
Okay,
that's that second one, is just an extension of the moratorium.
right,
Correct?
thank you.
Can I have a point of clarification too, because that's going to affect staff a little bit? Are you saying that you're changing the moratorium to be strictly to everybody or to under 18?
To everybody until an ordinance can be drafted, which goes into effect.
Is your intent that we go out and the existing people that are selling it today, we stop them from
No,
selling it?
we continue the moratorium the way it is, the way it's drafted here. It doesn't say to minors, it's just a moratorium on any new sales of it.
right, right.
So we extend the moratorium while a new ban is drafted in ordinance form.
Could you please
Mr.
make that as a motion to extend the
Yes.
moratorium? As a single motion, please?
Okay,
Um,
yes.
Question before that, do I need to reopen the public hearing for this portion
Of the moratorium.
before she makes a motion, an additional motion?
I think that would be your discretion. I think the fact that what I'm hearing is that we're essentially asking it to be brought back again, which would invite and provide another opportunity for public comment. But I think you can go either way on this one.
Okay. Is there any public comment on this topic at this time? Okay. Trustee Clark, would you please make that motion?
Okay, I'll give it a hot shot. I'd like to make a motion to approve the attorney's right of this ordinance to include everything that trustee Stevens additionally stated, that it shall be unlawful for a person to sell kratom in the town of Monument, all people. And in addition, to approve the extension of the moratorium till the ordinance is completed at our next meeting.
I think he wanted them done separately. He wants to,
Yeah.
I move to approve the moratorium, to continue the moratorium.
Second.
We have a
What
motion and a
happened to my
second.
Oh,
Ms. Hogan?
Trustee Bornstein?
Yes.
Trustee Romanella?
yes.
Mayor Wilson?
Yes.
Trustee Stevens?
Yes.
Trustee Clark?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Elliott?
Yes.
That motion passes 6-0. We have an additional motion.
Okay.
There you go.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the attorney creating an ordinance in accordance with trustee Stevens' statement about it shall be unlawful for a person to sell kratom in the town of Monument at our next meeting.
We have a motion directing the town
Second.
attorney. Okay. We have a motion and a second. Ms. Hogan, is staff clear on that motion?
Yes, you basically want me to draft an ordinance that bans kratom and basically mimics what Parker did.
Correct.
Yes.
Yes, yeah, perfect.
Mayor Wilson?
Yes.
Trustee Bornstein?
Yes.
Trustee Stevens?
Yes.
Trustee Clark?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Elliott?
Yes.
Trustee Romanella?
Yes.
Is this all the information you can give me on this? Can I have anything else?
Mr. Foreman, will you have any additional notes be emailed to the board?
I will.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commander Hudson.
Thank you, Commander.
Acting Commander, that's. Acting.
Today's acting police chief.
This takes us to ordinance number 31-2019, an ordinance amending section 1.12.110 of the Monument Municipal Code concerning when an election may be canceled. Ms. Hogan.
Okay, this one's gonna be much more straightforward. Basically.
Promise? That's what you
yes.
think?
What I'm asking you to do is pass an ordinance that, in essence, changes the number 19 to 64. There's a set of circumstances that statutes allow you to cancel an election, and they are that you are only electing officers, you don't have a question on the ballot, it's simply an election. Nobody has issued or filed an affidavit to be a write-in candidate, and you don't have more candidates than offices to fill. So those are the three criteria that you have to meet. State statute allows you to cancel an election 64 days prior to the election. Our town code says that you have to wait until 19 days before the election. So I'm just asking you to change our town code to reflect what state statute states, which would allow us to cancel an election in those certain circumstances 64 days prior to the election.
How often do you have those circumstances happen?
Oh, well, it used to happen pretty frequently, but we haven't canceled an election here in the town of Monument since, I believe, 2008.
Is there some reason you're bringing this up now?
Well, I just want to clarify it in the event that it is going to, if all those circumstances are met, it would save the town a significant amount of money, because if I have to wait until 19 days before the election to officially cancel it, I have to go through all the motions, including ordering ballots, hiring election judges, training election judges, and going through the motions as if I were going to have an election until it's officially canceled.
Even
So-
knowing you're not.
Correct.
So we have 64 days that you have to do that, or the state has the 64 days?
The state already affords the opportunity for municipalities to cancel their election 64 days before the election if they've passed an ordinance that allows them to do so. Ours still says 19. From way back in 2004, before 2014, that was the deadline. They moved theirs back to 64. The town never did so. And I'm asking to clean it up so that it matches state statute.
Makes sense.
Additional questions? Trustee Romano?
I was gonna make a motion.
Any other questions?
Ms. Hogan, I'm sorry, it's going over my head a little bit. So the window when people do submit and you validate, and then they have to be turned, I think, end of January. So that would just reduce that time if you didn't have people running, or you
It
had
does.
a limit? I mean, am I heading in the correct?
It does nothing different to the nomination petition circulation period. That's 91 to 71 days before the election. It simply allows you, once you realize all the circumstances that would let you cancel an election, when you realize all those it's going to happen, you can do it at 64 days before the election instead of waiting until 19 days before the election.
I understand. Thank you very much.
Yes,
This strikes me as you guys cleaning up our codes.
exactly.
Yes.
And saving money for the town. That's what you're trying to do.
Rather than waiting till the last minute.
I move to approve ordinance number 31-2019, an ordinance amending section 1.12.110 of the Monument Municipal Code concerning when an election may be canceled.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Ms. Hogan?
Trustee Stevens?
Yes.
Trustee Bornstein?
Yes.
Trustee Romanello?
Yes.
Trustee Clark?
No.
Mayor Pro Tem Elliott?
Yes.
Mayor Wilson?
Yes. That motion passes 5-1. Ordinance number 32-2019, an ordinance amending the Town of Monument Municipal Code. I did not open that last ordinance up for public comment.
Oh, but we did not.
I think if you could, how do I fix this? If you could basically, open it up for public comment and then.
Re-motion it?
Re-motion it, yeah.
Okay. Moving back to ordinance number 31-2019, an ordinance amending section 1.12.110 of the Monument Municipal Code concerning when an election may be canceled. I'm gonna open this portion to the public, if anybody from the public would like to make a comment. Seeing none, we'll bring it back for a motion.
I move to approve ordinance number 31-2019, an ordinance amending section 1.12.110 of the Monument Municipal Code concerning when an election may be canceled.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Ms. Hogan?
Trustee Stevens?
Yes.
Trustee Bornstein?
Yes.
Trustee Romanello?
Yes.
Trustee Clark?
No.
Mayor Pro Tem Elliott?
Yes.
Mayor Wilson?
Yes. That motion passes 5-1. Ordinance number 32-2019, an ordinance amending the Town of Monument Municipal Code, section 3.28.070 regarding imposition of stormwater drainage impact fee. Mr. Manning.
Good evening. As just read, this ordinance has to do with the stormwater impact fee. That fee was initially set based on our research in the year 2000 or around there, and I'm unaware of it being changed since then. So just briefly on, let me go back one. Oh, it must be a different order, that's okay. Well, anyway, I have a slide in here somewhere that shows what a drainage basin is, just to let everybody know. Basically, if you have, it's a place that collects water, could be big, could be small. Usually there's a drainage down in the middle of it, tributaries come in, it runs down to a larger stream runs into a bigger stream. So these are drainage basins, and those blue lines, the two intersecting red lines being 105 and 25, all of those blue lines define different basins. And those different basins have different fees associated with them. This is part of a resolution passed by the county. Our original 2000 designation of impact fees was from the county study and simply used their numbers at the time. They passed this last year, and it has updated fees associated with each basin. This shows the current basins we have. There's 8 of them, 2 are new. They're added because of Willow Springs. They were not a part of the impact list prior to annexing that property. And so you can see what they are now and what they're proposed to be, which are the county numbers. Now the county does the studies behind all these impacts and set those numbers. So typically if we didn't have that, we'd want to do that ourselves to justify the amount we're charging. So the impact fee is intended to mitigate new development to pay their share when they build hard surface, anything that's impervious, a driveway, a parking lot, a rooftop. All of that allows less water to soak into the ground and run off in some direction that has to be managed. So that's the purpose of the fees. So what I want to do is give you a quick example. First of all, these owners do not apply to Triview. They have their own drainage impact fees. So basically this side of the freeway and part of north of Higbee, that land that goes up to 105. The other thing is we have a couple projects going on right now. One of them is Wagons West, the other is Lake of the Rockies North. And so I did a couple calculations right now for Wagons West. Drainage fee of $150 is being charged based on the existing numbers. That's on a house that has a construction cost value of $180,000. Our total fee structure on that, including all the other fees, is $24,000. So the drainage fee is $150 of that $24,000. It would go up to $117 to $267. So essentially, this project would cost a developer another $117 per home. Any questions?
So, Mr. Manning, these fees are passed on to the developers and things of that?
The way we charge our fees is at the time of land use permits, so it's charged to whoever's building the house and applying for that. So the developers themselves do not typically build houses, so they don't pay the fee. They pass it along to their home builder.
And you found homes in Monument for $180,000. Where is that location?
No, he's just saying there was
Well, that's a construction cost that we were told. It's based on a figure that's, without going in depth in it, it doesn't mean that's actually what it's gonna cost.
I was teasing. Thank you very much.
So this would affect, just to clarify, this would affect currently in the developing developments?
Yeah, applications that come in after it becomes an ordinance, 30 days from
New construction.
30 days, yeah, 30 days. Any additional questions from the board?
Yeah, the last time these fees were changed, you said was 2002?
That's my research, that's what I could find.
Okay.
That's when they were initiated.
Other questions from the board? This is a public hearing item. Would anybody from the public like to speak on this item? Charlie?
Mr. Mayor, Board of Trustees, we'd like to speak in regards to the fee increase, and what we're asking for is a delay on voting for these increases to allow time for stakeholder input. We were notified of this around the 11th of October, and so we made first comments, asked some questions. We've received answers to some of those questions, but not to all of those. So we'd just like some input on that. We agree that the fees need to be raised. Some of our questions that we'd like to know is the city and county drainage fees are based upon required improvements per a study for that basin, per each drainage basin. So the question is, do the funds collected by the town go into the general fund, or is there a separate stormwater fund that is in place to construct improvements to these basins? I think Larry expressed that the city has done no drainage studies for areas, particularly in the city itself, but are relying on the county reports for those. Is there a rational nexus for this fees? So the increase that Mr. Manning spoke about is an increase on top of a fee that was already agreed to in annexation agreement for Wagons West. So that initial fee that was agreed to is $213, and now we're adding additional between $150 and $180 fee on that. And the way the county and the city base these fees on is based upon impervious area. So again, when you put in a house, you have roof, you have concrete, you have asphalt, pavement, that type of thing. So it's based not on the cost of the house, but how much acreage is impervious. So as an example, let's take Wagons West as an example. There's 17 acres of property being developed. Then you calculate all the streets, the roads, the sidewalks, and that, and then you come up with a acreage amount of how much is impervious. So somewhere between 60 and 70% may be impervious. So then you say 70% of 17 acres is 13 acres times the fee, and that's how you come up with a fee. And then it's divided by the number of lots, and it's paid on a per lot basis. So it varies based upon how much impervious area, not necessarily the cost of construction for that home from that. So what we're asking for is just the opportunity to have a stakeholder input, meet with the Public Works Department, make sure we understand how these fees are being applied, where they're being used. We don't have a problem paying into a fund to do drainage improvements that are needed, but where does that money go? Again, does it go into the general fund, or is there separate accounts per basin? So if you're paying into, say, Teach Out Creek Basin, is that money being used for drainage improvements within that basin versus maybe Monument Creek Basin or Fountain Creek Basin, other basins that are within the city or the town of Monument? So what we are asking for is a delay in the approval of this to allow stakeholder input before it comes back before the board again.
Thank you, Charlie.
Thank you.
Sir, I know your name now. First name is Charlie. Can you state
Yeah.
your full name for the record?
I would love to know who you are.
Yes, Charlie Williams. I am the developer for Wagons West Development and also representing Home Builders Association.
Thank you very much.
I was gonna say, what is the answer to that question? Mr. Manning, thank you.
If you look at the purpose I had up on the screen, then you'll see it's not necessarily money that would go into the exact basin. First of all the basins collide, and then they collide, in our case, at Monument Creek. So that's where trying to keep Monument Creek and the water in that creek at a historic level of drainage and not erode further. That's what the attempt is. That doesn't mean that the money paid into one basin would be applied in that basin. Would you like to address that?
I guess the only thing I would like to add is that, as you all know, the stormwater fund that we currently have, which is part of the general fund, has very limited revenue resources. And about the only money that comes in there is through the development of new property and, again, like to explain, the impervious surfaces. So when they come in, generally speaking, it's not a whole lot of money to fund a major stormwater project. And I did present something to you, I believe, about a month or two ago about the total cost, or I think it's built into the budget, total cost for all the stormwater projects that we have left to do. And revenues coming from this fund are not anywhere close to that, but it's good to see a change that has been a long time before it came about. I mean, we had a similar issue where we ran almost 20 years without a water rate increase until that changed in 2016.
So then, just to clarify, I'm sorry. Just to clarify, his question, the question that I asked then, is that these funds don't go to a specific drainage, but they go into a drainage fund to fix drainages, not a general fund.
Yes. It goes into the general fund, but we have a separate fund that's part of that is just for stormwater.
Okay.
Just a question for Tom. Is this a similar scenario to our conversations when we had to raise water rates where we went for duration of time and it wasn't adjusted? And now we're looking at years that this had to be adjusted to? Is it?
That's my take on it that Mr. Manning has presented for you. I haven't had a lot of opportunity to look into studies to do this, but I know they take a long time and they cost a lot of money. And based upon the amount of revenue that comes in for the stormwater fund, it's again, we would be going negative just to do a drainage study to get that. And that's why having a county with a fairly recent study was easy for us to go on, because it includes all these basins that are in their current map.
Which is fantastic, because that's a cost that we didn't have to incur, that the county did for us.
Trustee Clark?
I have a question of the attorney.
Okay.
Typically in situations like this, when you're having a rate increase of any kind, isn't it typical to allow for anyone who's already in the process to be grandfathered into the process that they've had instead of increasing on those people that are in process?
My sense is that that's ultimately a policy call. What I understood the presentation to suggest was that there would be a date certain sometime in the future that by which these rates would apply to all applications subsequent to that date. So at some point you have to pick a date that starts, and so in some ways Mr. Manning's presentation contemplates your question, but so you have to pick a date that starts, and so you can talk about that, but that's a policy question as well. It's not, I don't think there's any legal implications regarding when you decide to begin this program and how.
Doesn't an ordinance go into effect 30 days after it's voted on?
Yes, but you can make additional amendments to this that would suggest, for example, that make further, basically set further out that date, like you did with the water rates, or something like that.
Yeah, I was just under the impression that anyone who is already in process would be grandfathered in to the process to which they agreed when we all gave our approval on the board for that particular development to go through. So is it legally sound to go back and recharge them outside of that agreement?
Yeah, I'm not familiar with those particular agreements. I think Mr. Manning is prepared to speak to that.
Yeah, in the annexation agreement, it states that they will pay any increases.
I see.
Unless it's a set statement in that agreement, and that's not the case here. So it covers all the other fees, even like parks, schools. If they go up in this particular annexation agreement of Wagons West, it states that they will be liable for any increases as the board deems necessary.
So even after they've done the annexation and agreed to a certain monetary amount, at any time during that development, if the fees are increased, then they would be well aware that they would have to take on that increase. Is that correct?
Yeah, I assume that they were diligent enough to look at what it was at the time, but it doesn't say what it was at the time in the agreement. It just says that if those fees go up,
Then they accept
they'll be
that.
liable for the increase.
I see. Thank you for answering my questions.
Mr. Manning?
Sorry.
I have a question, just in thinking about taking into consideration everybody, all parties getting their questions answered properly or thoroughly, if there's any that have been missed. If we were to delay this until the November 18th meeting, are there any negative implications on the town for the 1-month delay?
Just revenue stream. And as Tom was saying, it's not a tremendous amount. Either way, whether we collect it or don't, it's not going to enlarge that fee, that impact amount a lot, or it's not going to be.
So it's negligible?
Well, I thought it was. That's why I brought it forward to you without a lot of public input.
I don't.
We did contact the Home Builders Association, so.
Mr. Mayor, I'd also be interested too, based on what other jurisdictions might do once they pass something, as far as what that window is before it goes into effect, based on what one of my colleagues has brought up as far as existing development and how that impacts, just so we have a baseline.
What's your opinion on that, Mr. Foreman?
The thing about it is, like Larry stated, when the developers come in here and they sign annexation agreements or development agreements, they're well aware that the town may, at their option, raise fees. And at this at this time, we have the chance to be able to do that. You're going to have, if you put it off a month, are you going to make a different decision? I don't know. These fees haven't been reviewed since 202?
2000.
Yeah, 2000. So it's been 19 years since the fee's been raised, or 17 years since they've been raised. Just like our water rates that we did, we had to raise those. I think it's time to review all of our fees and take a look at what developers and builders are paying versus what they're paying in other towns. Larry has done that, looked at this ordinance, and I think he's done a good job of setting these fees to where they're comparable to some of the towns around us.
So you would be adverse to a delay?
Yes, I would be.
I'm gonna make a motion, on ordinance number 32-2019, an ordinance amending the Town of Monument Municipal Code, section 3.28.070 regarding imposition of stormwater drainage impact fee.
I second.
We have a motion and a second. Ms. Hogan?
Trustee Romanello?
Yes.
Trustee Bornstein?
Yes.
Trustee Stevens?
Yes.
Trustee Clark?
No.
Mayor Pro Tem Elliott?
Yes.
Mayor Wilson?
Yes. That motion passes 5-1. Thank you, Mr. Manning. Ordinance number 33-2019, an ordinance approving the site plan and final plat of Jackson Creek North, filing number 2. Ms. Jones.
Good evening again, Mr. Mayor, members of the board. 2 seconds to get my technology working. Okay. So the last ordinance before you tonight, ordinance 33-2019, as Mr. Mayor mentioned, is a site plan and final plat for Jackson Creek North, filing number 2. I have a simple vicinity map here just to set the stage for the area we're talking about. So the property is north of Harness Road. Harness Road is currently being extended east-west between the Remington Hill neighborhood and Jackson Creek Parkway, just south of the Jackson Creek Senior Living. So this is the property north of Harness Road, like I said, to the east of the Senior Living project. So a little summary, it's about 26 acres. It is split between Regency Park PRD zoning 4 and 6. Those are simply the residential densities. So what's being proposed is a use by right single-family detached residential. There are 85 single-family lots here proposed in filing number 2, plus, of course, tracks and right-of-way. There's also a park site included. The park has been reviewed and approved by TriView, and they would ultimately maintain that park site. So this is a graphic. This is taken from the 6th amended zoning of Regency Park, and I've just highlighted the general area for you in this sort of pink oval area, and you can see, again, split between PRD 4 and 6 are the zonings, and then if you'll just take note of this extension of Bowstring going north through this potential project, and then obviously there are future connections that we will talk a little bit more about, potentially connecting Cloverleaf west to Jackson Creek Parkway, and both Bowstring and Cloverleaf north to Higby Road at some time in the future. As you'll see, the area proposed does not include those extensions at this time. So this graphic is actually from the plat. I know it's very hard to read because of the scale, so we'll just quickly take a look at it. But I think you can see that there are 3 access points from Harness Road into this proposed development. You can also sort of see the park site there, but to be a little bit easier, I have a more simple graphic. So Jackson Creek North filing 2, which is what you're considering tonight, is shown here on the sort of the top of the slide, again, east of the Senior Living project. To the south of Harness Road is Jackson Creek North filing number 1. On the west side of Bowstring, and then on the east side of Bowstring is the Remington Hill neighborhood. So residential neighborhoods to the south, the Senior Living and the self-storage there to the west. So as always, I like to remind everyone of all the folks that have taken a look at these projects and provided their comments. Right, floodplain, the Air Force Academy has their particular notes on the plat. The utilities, obviously TriView, the school district, folks like that. I note on here this project was also discussed at our DRT, which is our new development review team meetings, which are being held monthly. And this project was discussed at that group, which is essentially these folks, but getting together in the same room.
What's DRT?
It's a development review team. It's a new sort of meeting that brings these folks and others together to discuss these types of projects.
It's kind of one of those meetings that we invented to streamline the projects, you know, that we were getting comments at different times, and some of those comments affected other agencies, and it would take months for those comments to get back to the developer. This way that we do the DRT, everybody's in the room at the same time.
Thank you.
I'm just a dumb question. Why is the U.S. the Air Force Academy? I'm just asking why they're on that list.
We're within a 3-mile range of the Air Force Academy, and so they require review of all of our projects and on all residential plats. They ask that we put a note on there that says that there could be potential noise impacts and things like that. There's sort of standard language that goes on there.
Thank you very much.
Of course. So the roadway connections, I mentioned this just briefly. As I showed, and I have another graphic to show you, future filings in this area will include connections of Cloverleaf and/or Bowstring to Higbee Road, and Cloverleaf eventually to Jackson Creek Parkway. Everyone has been discussing these. They will happen. It is likely that they will be required with the next filing, at least one of those connections. The developer is aware of that. Triview and the town have all had those conversations. The future potential traffic on Bowstring at the time it is connected to Higbee Road was the one concern that really came up at the Planning Commission. And so I wanted to bring that up. However, that is not included in the filing that's before you today. That connection is not in place. So back to that same graphic. So again, filing 2 is shown in this pink area. The connection to Higbee Road of Bowstring is shown for you here in green. And this was the concern that came out of the Planning Commission meeting. There were some folks concerned about traffic and speeds and things like that on that particular extension. But again, that extension is not included in this filing. So let's talk a little bit about that Planning Commission meeting. That was just a couple weeks ago on October 9th. Again, the main concern that came out of that, or really the only concern that came out of that, was that future traffic when it's connected to Higbee Road. I would propose to you that that's not an issue with this filing that's proposed today, because that connection is not happening today. The developer, Triview, and the town will certainly review the traffic studies and discuss the potential impact when those connections are proposed, right, with the next filing or a future filing. And at that time, it'll be determined whether or not some type of traffic calming device, right, is a roundabout needed or something like that. So those will all be reviewed with a future filing whenever that connection is proposed. So the Planning Commission did vote 5-0 to recommend approval of this project. Outstanding issues or concerns, I just wanted to highlight for you that there really are not any. The proposed use is a use by right in these zoning districts, and all the applicable code standards are met with the proposal. With that, the Planning Commission again recommends approval of Jackson Creek North filing number 2. It's a site plan and final plat brought to you tonight as ordinance 33-2019. And again, that is based on the findings that the proposal complies with all standards and criteria for approval. Staff is available to answer any questions you may have, and the applicant is also present if you have questions for them as well.
Questions for Ms. Jones? The applicant doesn't have a presentation?
They're available if you have questions.
Okay. So questions for the applicant? This is a public hearing item, so I'll open it up to the public for anyone who would have a comment. Does anybody from the public have a comment? Seeing none, I'll bring it back to the board for further discussion or a motion.
Motion ordinance number 33-2019. An ordinance approving the site plan and final plat of Jackson Creek North filing number 2.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Ms. Hogan?
Trustee Bornstein?
Yes.
Trustee Clark?
Yes.
Trustee Romanello?
Yes.
Trustee Stevens?
Yes.
Mayor Wilson?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Elliott?
Yes.
Motion passes 6-0. Thank you, Ms. Jones. Resolution number 36-2019, a resolution awarding a contract to Monument Peak Controls for replacement of the SCADA system. Mr. Thornish.
It's actually Mountain Peak Controls.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm sure they'll understand. The contract that you have in front of you has to do with Mountain Peak Controls. The town has a little bit of history with that company. We've had a pretty advanced SCADA system for many years now, and we've had multiple companies come in and help us troubleshoot different issues, look at programming updates, things that we need to keep up with technology. We even had some of them come in and want us to pay for their training time to learn our system, which we flat out refuse to do. So we've had a good relationship with this company. They've done work for multiple government entities. If you can tell by their resume that's attached, it has everything with the city of Cripple Creek, Snowmass, Silverthorne, other similar sized towns. What you have in front of you now is a chance to, or a contract to award to improve, replace, and upgrade our PLC panels, which are our program logic controllers. They're the kind of the brains of our SCADA system, and we have several of those located at all of our treatment plants, including our booster station. And the contract is come in well under budget, and if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Any questions from the board? Seeing none, I'll look for a motion.
Motion for resolution number 36-2019, a resolution awarding a contract to Mountain Peak Controls for the replacement of the SCADA PLC panels and upgrading the technology throughout the water treatment plants.
Second.
A motion and a second. Ms. Hogan?
Mayor Pro Tem Elliott?
Yes.
Trustee Romanello?
Yes.
Mayor Wilson?
Yes.
Trustee Stevens?
Yes.
Trustee Bornstein?
Yes.
Trustee Clark?
Yes.
Motion passes 6-0. Thank you, Mr. Thornish. Discussion item, digital logo enhancement for the new website. Ms. Vanden Hoek.
Good evening, Mayor and trustees. This is just to bring to your attention a digital enhancement that we'd like to make regarding our logo. We are currently refreshing the look of our website to kind of update the way that it looks. And it was suggested to us by our website company that we change the shape of our logo from this rectangle that we currently have to a more rounded version. We also felt that this was a good opportunity to bring to it the attention our date of incorporation. So we've worked with our graphic designer to establish this new logo. That really the only change is the addition of a seal and then the date of incorporation. So I'm happy to answer any questions about this change, but really it's just to bring it to your attention.
Trustee Clark?
This is beautiful. I was just wondering, you see underneath the estimated EST.1879 that where you see the circle going all the way through again on the second line. I'm wondering if that could be taken out.
I don't know. We can certainly talk to our designer about that and see.
So that would make it a circular image, and it's very advantageous in marketing for eye appeal to have a circle. It's helps people think of family and home and security, etc. So just that interior circle kind of throws that off a little bit.
I think that was made so that it would look more like a seal design, but we can certainly talk to her about that and see if we can make that change or not. The challenge really is that we're under a tight deadline with our website company, so I don't know if we'd be able to meet that deadline or not.
That's fine. I just thought I'd throw my opinion out there.
Sure, thank you.
Yeah.
Is there additional comments from the board?
I just had a question. Are we working on modifying our website? I know I heard some discussion, but I thought it'd be best to ask you directly.
Yeah, we are, every couple of years with our current website company, they refresh the look and feel. And I don't have the clicker, but if we could advance to the next slide, there is a preview of what our new website will look like. I apologize, it's kind of hard to see, but, oh, well, she's already got it. So anyways, this is kind of what it will look like. It will be more of a scrolling, but more of a updated look from our website design
Are we
company.
maintaining the same website company?
Yes.
Or are we giving options? I mean,
We
they
are
haven't
under-
done a great job in the past year, so maybe they're waking up to technology, but in the past, we've had a very non-user friendly website.
When we first went with this website company, we went with an older version, and so just based on who was working on that at the time. So this is their latest sort of model of how they're building websites now. So we're still under contract with our existing website company, and they do this kind of a refresh of a design for us at no cost to the town.
How long was the contract for?
I believe it was for 5 years.
Okay. Well, this looks better. Looks better, so that's exciting.
We're very happy with it. Our engagement committee all is really excited about it. We'll have more information as we progress, but this is kind of just a sneak peek.
Thank you.
Have you tried any other colors in the circle other than that yellow gold?
Well, we do have branding standards, and so that is part of our branding standards. We have specific colors
It
that
just looks kind of blah.
hold out.
All right.
Again, I'm happy to try and see if we can change, but with our tight deadline, I'm not sure that we would be able to.
Okay.
I have a question. Is this supposed to be kind of antique looking or something? I'm just trying to understand all the white patches in the circle.
Yeah, so if you take that line away and put in color, it'd be nice.
Yeah, maybe like anything flashy. Not like red, but maybe a green or
No,
something.
is this supposed to be antique looking? I mean, I'm trying to understand this.
Yeah, we were
Yeah.
trying to go with kind of a historic seal looking
Okay.
design. We went through several versions. We have an entire engagement committee that helps us make these decisions. And then our management committee also looked at it as well.
Mr. Foreman, do we have any residents that participate on this board, just for some maybe feedback from our community?
Not at this time, we do not.
Maybe that might be I'm just throwing it out there.
That's a call of the board. If you would like us to do that, we'd gladly take that time. Like Madeline says, we got a deadline of what, December?
We are hoping to launch by early January, which means
Yeah.
we have to have a lot of this done by November, December.
Is there any possibility you can like do 3 or 4 of these like with different colors and just pop it in front of us and we can maybe look at it or no?
Our deadline is November
never
I'm
1st.
not gonna sit here and.
I have to
take
remind you
apart.
too, there is a cost to this. We don't get this done for free.
Okay.
So there is a cost there. There's a timeline. And I think staff has been working on this for several months along with some of our designers and.
All right,
and,
didn't mean to drag it through the mud.
No, it's okay.
Just send those to Trustee Roman.
That's right. That's right.
And just to
I'll start a
remind you,
committee.
this is a digital refresh and will only be used on our digital opportunities. We won't be changing cars and stuff like that currently. If we decide to do something like that, we'll bring that back to you if you want to make a change, and then we'll make them as we buy new equipment.
How long is left with our contract with this company?
I believe we signed that contract in 2016, so that would be
So it's coming up another 2
2021.
years. Okay.
21, one more year. Right?
Any additional comments or criticisms from the board? Thank you, Ms. Vandenhoek.
So is it fair to understand that Trustee Romanello will be setting up a committee?
Yeah.
No.
Squash that.
This brings us to our public comment portion of the meeting. Public comments are limited to 3 minutes. Would anybody from the public like to make a comment? Seeing none, we'll move on to board authorization items. An ordinance amending Monument Municipal Code, Chapter 5.52. Ms. Hogan.
Well, the board had expressed some interest in changing the way that we review special event permit applications, and specifically wanting authority to approve events over a certain number of participants. So that's gonna require a little bit of change to our existing town code. We've also been by committee looking at the application process and refining the application itself. And that's a policy decision. It's not gonna be codified, but I'll bring forward the new applications so you'll be aware of all the factors that we weigh as a management team into approving or disapproving special events at that time. So basically just asking permission to bring that forward.
Anybody have any qualms with that? No. Okay. Please feel free to bring that forward. Presentation by Silver Alliance, Ms. Hogan.
Ms. Evans Bagnell, President of the Silver Alliance Board of Directors, has requested an opportunity to present to the board. I believe the next regular meeting is November 18th, so that would probably be when she would like to get on the agenda if you would like to hear what she has to say.
Is the board comfortable with that?
Sure.
Okay. Any other board authorization items? Seeing none, we'll move on to board comments. Any board comments?
I have a couple.
Okay. Trustee Clark?
At the CML meeting, we went through a series of questions and votes. And then they also, which you all have already gotten from, I believe the town manager sent the results of that meeting from CML to everyone on the board. But there were a couple of things that they are going to be projecting into the future that I'd like to bring to the board's attention, get some input, and encourage some follow-through. One was on their telecommunications. Access to high-speed, reliable broadband remains a challenge for many cities and towns across Colorado. In order to access the broadband fund, a community must be identified as unserved right now. That's the way it reads, that you have to be unserved. CML expects to see legislation allowing local governments to challenge their current designated status as unserved to the broadband board. So CML is wanting to take that unserved word and make it underserved. So that would open up a lot of options available to areas like Monument for broadband, where we're constrained by only 2 service providers. So this would open up the ability for us as a town to be able to access those funds should they be able to get that change from unserved to underserved. So I'd like to encourage the follow-through of that SB 152 exemption that I brought up in June of 2019 to be specifically included in the April election so that we can have our local control back on that, so that we might be able to access these funds in the future if we so desire.
SB 152?
Yes, SB 152 exemption, which should be included on the April ballot in order to get our local control back.
Why would a Senate bill be included on our
Well,
ballot?
we talked about it in the June meeting, and we all gave consensus that we would have this exemption put forward in order to get our local control back.
Okay.
We don't have it right now. We kind of gave it up, so.
The Senate Bill 152 allows towns to exempt themselves.
Oh, I see. Okay,
Yep.
I'm sorry.
Yep.
That's not the one sponsored by Representative Carver then. I was
think
thinking
she's
of a
involved in that, but
different one.
I think it's a
Yep.
different
Well,
one.
this is when they did the presentation and we all agreed that we should get our control back, yeah.
Yes.
Right.
I agree, yeah,
Yep.
yeah, absolutely.
And so the
Yeah.
goal was to have it in the April election.
So what do we
So-
need to do that?
Y'all have instructed me to do that, and so we're preparing
Okay.
that.
Right.
Good. And then the other matter was the transportation funding. So finding a viable solution for the Colorado transportation infrastructure challenges will continue to be a top priority for the General Assembly in 2020. Although a long-term comprehensive solution has continued to elude Colorado legislators, significant one-time investments have been made in the past several years to help alleviate infrastructure challenges both at the state and local level. Although no specific items have yet to be put forward for 2020, CML is expecting further legislation to address infrastructure funding, including additional one-time general funds and new transportation-related fees to provide a more sustainable level of funding. So CML is going to be working diligently to make sure the General Assembly understands the critical importance of funding transportation at every level of government. And I would like to encourage the discussion on the board of creating a transportation funding authority and an infrastructure funding authority, so that when these funds are available, we as a town might be able to have access to them. By creating these authorities, we would then be open to receiving and applying for any funding that CML might be able to get for us in the future. I'm all about getting as much as we can for the town.
Yes,
So-
yes,
Yep.
yes.
We've had discussions about creating an RTA that is specific to the Tri-Lakes area.
And so funding for the transportation and the
Infrastructure.
The infrastructure, I think, is gonna be vital for the town of Monument. Looking at the budget, I think having access to additional funds would be very beneficial.
Is this something we can get on a discussion item to gather more information and allow our colleague to share?
Yeah, I'd be more interested in seeing how this all works.
Yeah.
If they're able to apply for grant or get money from the
Yep.
state, that's fine. If they're, looking to start, putting things on the ballot and start taxing our citizens,
Oh, no,
then
no.
I
don't
that's a
think it-
different situation.
I don't think it was a taxation issue, but I'll get clarification on that.
Okay.
I'm not interested in taxation either. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Trustee Clark.
Any other Board of Trustee comments? Seeing none, do we have a motion for executive session?
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion to enter into executive session as related to the negotiated settlement of case number 2019 CV 3812 and the concurrent and related disposition of real property or interest in the same held by the town pursuant to CRS 24-6-402 4A, B, and E. The Board of Trustees will discuss the acquisition, transfer, or sale of real property or other interest in real property, develop strategy for negotiations, instruct negotiators, and determine positions relative to same, and confer with the town attorney and obtain legal advice on specific legal questions regarding the acquisition, transfer, or sale of real property or other interest in real property. I further move to return to the open meeting at the close of the executive session for the purpose of taking any formal action deemed necessary.
We have a motion, do we have a second?
A second.
We have a motion and a second. Ms. Hogan?
Trustee Clark?
Yes.
Trustee Bornstein?
Yes.
Mayor Wilson?
Yes.
Trustee Stevens?
Yes?
Mayor Pro Tem Elliott?
Yes.
Trustee Romanello?
Yes.
That motion passes 6-0. We will take a 5-minute recess and then go into an executive session in this room. And we will have, we discussed